Any good stories from the road?
Pipe up.
I wish we'd gotten to see a little bit more out of our punter.
I'm starting to puke.
It makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to die.
I'm starting to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
He's on the probiotics.
Is Georgia playing the 1985 Bears this weekend or what?
A lot of Todd talk.
Rat poison proof.
They're mongoose.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction.
Is the Georgia show going to welcome in Jake Roos? We just lost our Palmer Toms. I'm not sure where Palmer went. I'm digging the blazer. Look, we didn't even coordinate this.
You made me step it up, man. I saw you in the pregame. I do have my On3 T-shirt on.
I love that.
So not quite as nice, but
Night at the Roxbury DawgsHQ edition. And here's Palmer Toms. What's up, PT?
Hey, hold on.
all right, man.
There he is. Palmer just went
There
through
we
the
go.
transfer portal. He's back. Palmer, tell us what the vibe is. What's the mood right now as we are about 3 hours away from kickoff, man?
Yeah, we're starting to see fans file in. It is a little bit chilly in here. People forget. I think people think this is a dome. It's covered, no roof open, no roof closed. It just, no option there. They've got a roof over it, but it is an outdoor stadium still, with the open air factor to it. So we're feeling what it is like outside. Little bit cold, little bit chilly. I wouldn't say it's cold, but it's cold for California.
Jake Rose here. He's getting some Cheez-Its in, I think. Is that what that is, Jake?
Yeah, blood sugar's low, dude.
So, guys, you've been there for a couple days now. We've heard all the media. We've heard all the rigmarole, all the typical game week stuff. What do you ultimately think about this site in L.A. without the tailgate? I know everyone's upset about that, but this stadium looks like it's from another planet, Jake.
It really – listen, it's a cool place. I like Los Angeles. I do. I like it a lot. The problem is – sorry, I got a mouthful of cheeses. All right. The problem is where they got me sitting in this press box. Okay, this sucks. I can't see the field. I got a TV blocking about from the 40-yard hash. I got 15, 20% of the field was blocked. But
I don't know how plugged in you are. Are you able to turn your laptop around and give us a view?
Yeah, not super. I am a little bit plugged in, but give me just 1 second here.
Yeah, we got to see this view here. You look like you're in mission
Oh
control.
boy, that's subpar.
No,
Oh, man.
not cool.
Those are some of the windows
Jake,
Stetson Bennett's going to be throwing through tonight.
Has my stuff moved, or am I still good where I posted up?
You're still good, but there are other challenges now.
You got to watch out for those press box hyenas. They're just
Look what
jackers.
we got
They'll
here.
move your stuff.
There
They'll
are
take
other-
your laptop.
JT
Look
Piquel.
Hey, what's up, Piquel? Yeah, can you hear me, JD?
Hold on. Yeah,
We're
we're
sharing
live.
earbuds, AirPods. Yeah, I can barely hear you, JD.
Yeah, but Palmer's got the mic'd one. He's got the one with the mic
I'm
on.
messing this up.
Just
I
talk
don't
into
know, I don't know.
Palmer's ear hole.
Good to see you, JD.
All right, celebrity appearance there from On3's own JD Piquel. Go ahead and subscribe to him and subscribe to us too. He is crushing it over on On3's YouTube channel. This is the Dogs Only, Dogs Mostly, flavor, and there goes Jake Rowe. He just jumped out of his press box window. Roos, what's the vibe like where you're at, just up the road from me near Blue Ridge, Georgia?
Yeah, pretty calm around here right now, man. But I think people are going to be getting a little bit live. Town's pretty sleepy up here normally on a Monday night. Not tonight, man. A lot of places staying open. A lot of places open late. A lot of places with some drink specials tonight. So might have to go out and explore and report back from up here in the hills and hollers in North Georgia.
I'll be watching the game at home, depending on how things go. I expect to be downtown Athens later tonight, filming some celebratory revelation revelatory, not revelation. It's not. I don't think it'll be biblical downtown, but you never know. Back-to-back national championships don't grow on trees. Palmer, you had your 3 keys to the game for Georgia. Let's shift our attention to the actual game on the field. You had your 3 keys for the Dogs, Palmer. Go ahead and lay those out there for us if people haven't already read your words over at DawgsHQ.com.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I think all 3 of them kind of come down to one key, and it's execution. I mean, we saw Georgia against Ohio State just over a week ago, last Saturday in Atlanta. Feels forever ago at this point, but it really comes down to execution. They got to execute on offense. They got to execute on defense. You do that, you're not allowing big plays, big plays on defense. You're not giving up negative plays on offense. You're limiting that, which was my first key. But I think really it just comes down to just playing a clean, crisp game. I said this in my predictions, and I wrote this. I can't remember if I wrote this, but I know I said it at some point in the preseason. I felt there were 3 teams talented enough to win a national championship this year. 2 of them played last Saturday in Atlanta. One of them is on this field tonight, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't think that TCU has the horses to hang with Georgia. So ultimately, unless Georgia makes mistakes, unless they mess around. So that's why I think it really comes down to, is Georgia executing, clicking on all cylinders like they can and like they should with the talent that they've got? If they do that, I think there's going to be a second straight national championship title coming home to Athens.
Wes, Wes, you picked a pretty substantial spread in this one, and Palmer did.
I don't know if y'all can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just had some mic issues.
There you go.
Yeah, I picked a pretty significant spread, and I will reveal how I got to that number if Georgia wins the game. I'll just give you a tease there. But yeah, we had our staff predictions, and as I've done all year, I had to pick against myself. Not all year. I didn't really get wise to this until Georgia was 5 games into the season, and I was 0-5 against the spread. I looked in the mirror. I said, I got to reevaluate. So whatever I think about the game, I'm going to go George Costanza and pick the opposite. And ever since I started doing that, I only got 1 pick against the spread incorrectly. So if y'all have been listening to this show earlier on in the week, you know that I was just Munsoning all over the place. I didn't really have a whole lot of faith that Georgia could cover that 13, whatever it is now. It was 12.5, 13, 13.5. So because my gut was in that place, that dark, dark place, I decided to just say, all right, fading myself again. It's worked out so far. Dogs 48-18. So I hope for all of your sake watching, if you're a Georgia fan, I hope that I'm right about being wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I picked the cover as well. I still think this is going to be a really entertaining game. I think this is one of those games. It's like when you're looking at, how this game's going to play out, right? These teams, it's in their DNA to kind of never stay on the mat. They both, fight and listen, TCU's got a little bit more practice at it than Georgia does, but Georgia's got some practice at it too. It hadn't been all sunshine and rainbows this year for Georgia, not as much as it was last year, especially. And it's kind of weird to say that for a team that has lost a game. That hasn't lost a game, but lost a game last year, but hasn't this year. But I do believe that Georgia has what it takes to kind of pull away and cover in this game. And the betting trend has been really interesting. Right now, you're looking at 70% of the bets against the spread. 70% of the bets are on TCU. 58% of the money, however, is on Georgia. And that's happened that way in the last 24 hours. Means kind of the sharps kind of jump all over this thing.
I think I was the lone non-spread pick of the entire group. In fact,
yeah, you were.
Yeah, I got Georgia by 10 in this one. I went 41-31, and I cautioned people on the board. I said I don't think it's going to feel like a 10-point game. I think it's probably going to be Georgia with a little bit more control in this game. I think TCU will score on them late though, and I think that they'll draw that margin a little bit closer. But I think that Georgia, I'm with Palmer. It's so much more, I think, about what Georgia does than what TCU does. And Georgia, if they're on their A game, I think they're going to be incredibly difficult to stop. I said going into last week that if Georgia could make it through Ohio State, I thought that they'd hang another banner. I stand by that. I just don't know if they're going to quite get to that spread, given that these guys just kind of fight tooth and nail to the last, and that TCU is going to do that this season.
Guys, we just got the depth chart. You just published that over at DawgsHQ.com, and we've heard all week that Kirby Smart is hopeful to get Darnell Washington back. He's listed as the or at starting tight end. Brock Bowers or Darnell Washington, and then Oscar Delp in that 2 spot. Jake Rowe, you haven't really wavered on this, but what is your indication right now about Big O's availability tonight?
I think it's game time, and I think it's really going to come down to kind of how he feels and how much pain he's willing to tolerate. I don't expect a ton, even if he is available. Simply because he hasn't practiced and been a part of the game plan. He's in the unique position to still have an impact on this game if he can play 5 to 7 snaps, because he can help Georgia in some run-heavy situations with his ability to play on the edge. But I would be pretty surprised if he had a really, big impact on this game as a receiver. But you never know. I mean, some dudes are just kind of built different, and they face a little adversity. And when you don't expect a whole lot from them, whether it's injury or otherwise, they find a way to do something. And Darnell may be that guy for this game.
Speaking of the Big O, he is present over at our buddies at Breaking Tees shop. Their apparel shop has all of the Georgia tight end gear you could want, as well as the mailman, and I know we'll get to him in just a minute, but head on over to Breaking Tee if you need a new Georgia shirt. You probably do if you're being honest with yourself, so go check that out. There is always a link to the Breaking Tee storefront in the Georgia Show description. All right, guys, speaking of Stetson Bennett, let's take a look at what he will bring to the table tonight compared to what TCU's quarterback Max Duggan has put together this season. Kind of a similar season last year as to what Stetson Bennett had, as Duggan came in, filled in for the original TCU starter, and has not lost that job, has taken full advantage of it since. You see the touchdown count there, the yards accounted for. Stetson a distributor, but maybe not scoring quite at the clip as Max Duggan is. A little bit better completion percentage for Duggan and a much better QBR for Stetson Bennett. So you mentioned, Roos, that this is going to come down to what Georgia does as opposed to TCU dictating the game. And I am of that same mindset, specifically as it relates to Stetson Bennett. He's heard all week about how this is his swan song, his last game. Ohio State, he struggled at times, but also led the Dogs to a midnight miracle comeback. I think as long as Stetson Bennett doesn't try to do too much like he did at times against the Buckeyes, if he recalibrates here and keeps his focus in this last game with that G on the side of his helmet, you got to think Georgia's offense will have plenty of opportunities to get the edge against this TCU defense.
More fourth quarter Stetson, less first 3 quarters Stetson. I wrote that in my prediction. I said if he goes rogue again, Georgia could find themselves in trouble. I think that is the case, and I think that it would be a lot of people would probably agree. I'd be interested to hear if anybody here disagrees with that.
I mean, I think it's hard to disagree with that because, I don't think he played poor for 3 quarters. I think he played okay, and he played lights out in that fourth quarter. I got a feeling that, he's one that shows up in these big moments. 3 college football playoff games in his career, and he's been the MVP in all 3 of them so far. I'm kind of expecting the same thing tonight, and he's 61 yards away from the single season program passing record. I think he's going to top that. I mean, it would surprise me if he didn't. And it really shouldn't come as too much of a surprise considering he's got 15 games to do it as opposed to Murray had 13. But I mean, I think that he's an emotional guy. He likes to keep it to himself, but deep down, he's got those emotions in him. And I think that this is going to be an emotional night for him, and he wants to go out a specific way. And I think he's fully capable of making sure that happens.
100%. And I think that Kirby's post-game comments last week, we've talked about it before. Stetson's the guy that can respond to that kind of thing. And I think those comments are the kind of things that will get his attention and get him to play within the offense maybe a little better than he did last week. It's really all about, limiting those turnovers, maximizing the explosive plays. I do have a stinking feeling, though, that we're looking at a game here where I think Georgia's may run it 50 times, whether it's because they get out to a little bit of a lead and do that, or whether they just kind of come out of the gate trying to attack that three-man front and trying to stay ahead of the chains. The number one thing I think that could get Georgia in trouble in this game is negative plays. And, TCU does a nice job of creating those. It did against Michigan. I wonder if Georgia's going to do its best to try and limit those with some run game stuff and maybe put Stetson in a position, get him in some third and mediums and third and shorts where he can, kind of put some stress on the defense. But I do expect a good version of Stetson Bennett today.
I mean, Jake, and to your point there, you compared this TCU defense to Arkansas, and Georgia ran it 38 times last year against the Razorbacks, something like that. It, like you said, really wouldn't surprise me. I don't think he's going to top his career high that he put up last week, and that's what that game plan called for. He's one that's always willing to play within the game plan, but I do think it's going to be good Stetson Bennett tonight.
Well, I mean, that's what the game flow called for sure, because they had to kind of come back. But when I say they're similar to Arkansas, it's more of function than philosophy. It's more of they like to run these coverages, or they like to do these sorts of things as far as run fits and things like that. But Arkansas was a little more conservative. I think TCU is going to be a little bit more aggressive. And you saw kind of the boomer bust aspect of that aggressive style of defense against Michigan. They hit them for some big runs, and I think Georgia's going to need to be explosive in the ground game to make that happen.
Y'all hit like, hit subscribe, and fire away in the comments section. We're asking for your score prediction on the game. We'll get to our final score predictions to wrap up the show in a few minutes here before we send Palmer and Jake Rowe on their way with all the pregame responsibilities that they have. Y'all let us know what you think the score will be. Palmer and Jake, you each spoke with someone from TCU's media beat and someone from Michigan's reporter beat. And I'm curious to find out what your takeaways are from those guys that y'all spoke with. You can read more about it over at DawgsHQ.com. But just give us the Cliff's Notes. When you hear what a TCU reporter sees from this Horned Frogs team, and when you hear what a Michigan reporter saw from TCU's upset in Phoenix, what does Georgia need to be looking out for tonight in the Natty?
Well, I'll tell you this. This is the vibe I got from reading what Clayton Safey over our Michigan side had to say. Listen, I grew up in the country, and I've killed a few snakes, right? Killed a few rattlesnakes and moccasins. I love my odds every time, but I'm also kind of scared, and I've got to be really careful. And I think that's what Georgia's dealing with here. It's dealing with a rattlesnake. And, you like Georgia's odds. Georgia's got a really good chance. But the fangs are there. The venom's there. Take your eyes off the prize for a second. Slip up one time. You find yourself in a lot of trouble. And you'll be looking for some anti-venom that you may not be able to find. And so that's kind of the way I looked at it. TCU's dangerous. TCU is fast. It's explosive. It's physical. It's resilient. It's not going to quit. And whenever you play a team with all those elements, they're going to be tough to beat. Georgia should overmatch TCU on a four-quarter scale. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think looking at what folks on the TCU side of things said, talked to a reporter from Frogs today. Would go check out that story. And really it came down to they feel really, really good about Quentin Johnston. And I think if you look at this Georgia defense the last couple of weeks, that's been their weakness, guarding those, number one type receivers. Johnson is certainly one of those. And so I think a lot of pressure is going to be on Keely Ringo in this one. I think a lot of pressure is also going to be on Smile London. in this one as they try to keep Max Duggan in check. If TCU is going to win this, it's going to be high scoring. They don't want to. They've done it before, but it's not their style to play a physical, just grind it out, low scoring game like what the national championship was for 3 quarters last year. That one ended up getting opened up a little bit, but TCU, if they think if they're going to win this game, it's going to be pretty high scoring. Quentin Johnson, Max Duggan, and even some of those linebackers that TCU's got, D. Winters and company, could give Georgia some trouble. But the matchup that they wanted to watch, the 2 matchups that they wanted to watch were Johnson against Ringo and Jalen Carter against this offensive line.
I'm curious to see too if it comes down to those late, maybe late in the game, fourth quarter, how the depth factors in when you're talking about Georgia's 2s and 3s versus some of TCU's, and I think that that's something that you have to really consider in this one. Georgia's just recruited a lot differently over the last few years than TCU has, and that's been the case for a while now. So, that will, I think, if it comes down to that can be a factor in this game. And certainly if it is, that's advantageous for Georgia.
Listen, I've got a classic Jake Rowe interjection here. How did we swing this where the dudes are at home or wearing blazers and the dudes that are here are dressed like bums? How did we swing
deep
this?
fryer in the background, and you're
Jake, you know what this is? It's Torrey Pines. That ain't bum material.
Take that badge off. There you go.
You got Torrey Pines.
I thought you had like a Guy Fieri shirt on, man.
It's surf dudes.
Jake,
it's like guys holding surfboards.
Jake Rose in the Coffee Town announcer booth right now. I wanted to ask you about the recruiting discrepancies, differential, whatever D word you want to use. Jake Roos. I mean, everyone's making such a big deal about how TCU has these 3 stars, low 4-star guys, but don't take credit away from Kirby Smart's staff either with the evaluations, the talent development they've had either at Georgia with guys like Bennett, Lad McConkey, and some of these other dudes that weren't necessarily 5 stars. Yes, Georgia has more high 4-star and 5-star guys than TCU does, but the Dogs have done a pretty good job of developing their under-the-radar talent too.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, Georgia's done a fantastic job with their 3-star guys. We've seen it multiple times throughout the course of, the Kirby Smart era where they've taken those guys and elevated their games and made them into, high-level players. Jamon Dumas-Johnson, not exactly like a world beater in the rankings when he came out. I mean, and that's just one example. I mean, Georgia, though, has done an exceptional job with its evaluations, but they've also stocked the coffers with those 4-star guys, those high 4-star guys, those 5-star guys. They've got a lot of guys on this team from this freshman class and beyond even that were in that 4- and 5-star range that haven't seen a lot of action even this year, especially going back to last year's class. So, how do those guys, if they're called upon, factor into this? You feel like the ceiling's there. Do they come through in a big moment like that?
Well, I'll say they're going to need some. They're going to need some of those guys tonight, whether that's Oscar Delp, Marvin Jones, Jalen Walker. Those 4- and 5-star guys that you're mentioning from this past class. If the injuries are what we expect them to be, and Darnell Washington is limited, Chaz Chambliss is limited, whatever, Georgia's going to need those guys. You need a Michael Williams effort. You need a Malachi Starks effort. Those guys are going to be big.
Yeah, and one thing I'll point out, too, back to kind of Roos's point is, Georgia's kind of got this thing going right now where if you stick around long enough, whether you're a 4 or 5-star that gets off to a slow start, whether you're a 3-star that doesn't have high expectations, if you stick around long enough, most of those guys end up getting better and they end up being big-time contributors. You're seeing it. I mean, Xavier Truss is a guy that didn't do a whole lot for 2 years, and then bam, now he's a full-time starter. Devin Willett rotating in. Neither one of those guys were just chopped liver coming in. Devin Willett was a 3-star, but they're doing big things. And Javon Bullard, the list goes on and on. Dan Jackson, Georgia's developing, and they're developing at a high level. It's just a matter of, whether or not you can get guys to kind of stick around long enough. And that, guys who stick around, I think are guys that the coach and staff sees a lot of potential in. They work real hard to kind of keep them around. and that's a part of it as well. But this game's gonna take all hands on deck. This is for all the marbles, and it's just so fun to know like that nothing can be saved, nothing can be held back, that you just got to go. And that's why these games feel so much different in person. Is that kind of comes out. You see it, and it's so much fun. Really blessed to have a chance to be here and do this. And even if I can only see about 81% of the field.
You called to mind Bo Schembechler there for me, where he said, "Those who stay will be champions."
Well, I think Jake Rowe's going to be a champion. He's going to stay. He's going to stay in tight, and he's going to watch through that window for the game. What's up, Palmer? Hey, Palmer, can you get the Redcoats to wave at us?
Hey, Redcoats, let's see you wave. No wave.
None of them wave.
You gotta wave.
No, they're in game mode too, man.
Is that the Redcoats or the United States Marine Corps?
Maybe we can get better luck than Spike Squad.
They are locked in. Palmer, for the people that aren't at the game, can you just give us a little Palmer cam? Just kind of walk around a little bit. Show us what the digs look like there.
Here's what I want to know.
Give me 1 sec. I'm going mobile with this tripod.
I want to know who in the Spike Squad is going to get in real big trouble for running up a big credit card bill that their parents gave them for emergencies, but they have taken that thing and they bought a $2,000 plane ticket for Los Angeles for this game. Like somebody's student loans are taking a hit today. It's going to be bad.
And by the way, by the time you get there, it's $5 for a bag of chips at the concession stand. Brett McMurphy tweeted out the view of the concession stand menu. It's a $17 Modelo.
We got some Colorado fans.
All right, rock and roll.
See more Georgia fans. That's the TCU side. Pretty empty so far. Gates not too open. Haven't been open for too long. We got the purple seating arrangements.
Can I see that Halo board?
I'm loving this, man. I feel like this is like watching Jim Cantori like talk before the storm.
Yeah,
like Palmer's like giving the full breakdown of just.
Look, if we can't all be there, Palmer is going to take us inside the guts of SoFi Stadium.
Got some TCU fans down here.
Yeah,
they're too busy looking at their phone.
They might get to catch a field goal.
Get their number, Palmer.
I don't know.
Yeah, PT, you need to be firing on those girls, dude. Married or not.
We're gonna get up.
Georgia fans right here. They're ready. They gave it go, dogs.
What's the situation on the run out here? Do we have pyrotechnics? Do we have fire? Is it going to be?
I can confirm there will be flames, and it'll be nice and warm. We were standing over here; they were warming up. They got smoke. They got fire. They got more fire. It's warm. It's warm.
I tell you what, being down there on that tunnel. Being down there on that turf, that turf is like the fairway at Augusta National. It is the tightest, hardest turf I've ever seen.
Did they just flick you off, Palmer?
They gave a number one. Wes.
All right.
Oh, hold on. We got.
All right. Who do we have? What do we have?
We got big hats over here.
Oh,
big hats.
Big hat appearance. I love it.
Woo!
Big hats. Oh, that one's a special one back there. That's
Shout out to
big hat.
Them big dog hats is hell.
I love the fact we talked about it when it was first starting.
I know a guy.
I love the fact that I know a guy, and the big hat brand is blowing up. This is Georgia's sideline here. There's the injury tent, sometimes bathroom.
Yeah, that's some inside info that Palmer educated me on. I didn't know that sometimes when you see a guy go in the injury tent, he's not actually hurt. He just has to relieve himself.
P-Jug, dude. P-Jug. I got one.
All right. This is normally we do this on Sundays, Dog Stock Sunday, but we're doing Dog Stock National Championship Monday. And I'll start us out here, guys. I'm going to go stock up for this game on Oscar Delp. And y'all don't have to take individual players if you don't want to. You can do whatever you want. this is your part of the
Jake's
show.
going
But for
stock down
me,
on his
I'm saying
knees.
stock up on Oscar Delp. I'm hearing all the experts say Darnell Washington's out of the game. It's going to be a huge glaring weakness for Georgia's offense based on what they normally like to do with that 12 personnel. And they're not wrong, but they're also not right if they overlook Oscar Delp. I remember last season when Darnell Washington was injured and Georgia needed a freshman tight end to step up and carry the water and chop some wood himself at that tight end position. Brock Bowers did it against Clemson in Georgia's season opener on their road to their first national championship. And I think if Georgia wins tonight, you're going to see Oscar Delp do a magnificent job stepping up for a less than 100% Darnell Washington. Todd Hartley knows how to develop these guys, and I think Delp might surprise some people tonight. So dog stock up on Oscar Delp.
Stock up on Kendall Milton for me. I know we said everybody didn't have to go individual players. I thought he had two of Georgia's better runs in that SEC championship. Not SEC championship game, the Peach Bowl. I think Kendall Milton's going to make some plays tonight. I think he's the guy that I'm looking at is, I talked about, I think Georgia may run it a lot. I think Kendall Milton is the kind of guy that can have a lot of success with that tackle breaking, pressure legs. There's not a lot of tread on the tires, not a lot of wear on the tires this year thus far. I like stock up on Kendall Milton.
I just saw Deion Sanders walk onto the field. He's ready to bring Colorado to the stage over there from.
He's trying to poach some players.
Please go get a dog stock from Deion Sanders.
You better call him Coach Prime.
I'll go stock up on Small London. Talked a lot about him in my players to watch. Talked a lot about him in the East victory. I think Small London is going to have himself a big game. My prediction, Small London defensive MVP, leads the team in tackles, maybe a sack, maybe two, but definitely has an important role keeping an eye on Max Duggan tonight, keeping him from taking off too often. I'd stock up on Small London there.
All right. I'm going with stock up on the Georgia secondary because they've been much derided these last couple of weeks, and I think that they want to answer some of those concerns. Christopher Smith's going to want to finish this one out strong. Definitely Javon Bullard, after the performance he put together in the Peach Bowl, going to be ready for another big performance. And I think a guy who's caught a lot of hate over the last couple of weeks, Keely Ringo, I think he'll remind people why they loved him so much for what he did in the national championship last year. I think Keely's due for a big game. I think he's got a great matchup with Quentin Johnson. You know that they're going to go that way a lot. They'll try to expose him. I think Keely steps up. Big-time players in big-time situations, in big-time games, making big-time plays. He's got money on the line if he performs the way that we think that he can. I think Keely Ringo and the rest of the Georgia secondary comes together for this game and answers a lot of those doubts.
Yeah, Jake Rowe, I loved your perspective on hearing from Georgia's defensive coaches this week. If you haven't read up on that yet or watched it on our YouTube channel, Coach Boom, Coach Schumann, Trey Scott, they didn't mince words. They know they need to do better. They know their team needs to do better, their units as well. I can't wait to see how they respond to these last couple weeks of giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points. That's not characteristic of this team. However, Georgia's also shown that the Dogs can win in any kind of fight this season. So that should give Dogs fans a lot of confidence about this one tonight. All right, our score predictions, I think some of us already gave them, but in case you missed it, I said Georgia 48, TCU 18.
I'm trying to look for mine.
What was that, Palmer?
38-17 Dogs and over Frogs.
38-17, okay.
I've got a Georgia cover, 45-31. I think TCU scores a couple times late to close that gap down, but Georgia wins. Georgia scores a lot of points. Stetson Bennett, clean sweep playoffs, 4 MVPs, 4 games.
Jake Rowe and I with the same thought in terms of the late game theatrics. I think TCU will close the gap up. I picked Georgia to not cover this one. I said 41-31. I think TCU fighting tooth and nail to the end, but I don't think it feels like a 10-point game throughout this one.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you to Palmer and Jake Rowe for your live coverage from LA. Jake Roos, a Blazer bro, Appreciate that. Y'all stay locked into DawgsHQ.com throughout the game. There will be a live thread on every update you could want. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and hit subscribe here on the DawgsHQ YouTube channel. Give us a like if you didn't already do so. We'll be back after this one, win or lose. There's no draw in the Natty or in college football at all anymore, for what it's worth. Thanks for following us. Y'all stay safe during this game, and we will catch you soon. Peace.